So, as you may know, Yakuza 5, well, I waited for that game for 3 years and I was a bit disappointed in the storyline. In my review, I didn't go into a lot of detail about that because I don't want to spoil things for you people. But now is the time to make a, insert crack here, make a little of a rambling rant video about the stuff that I didn't like about Yakuza 5 storyline, which is a lot of small things and some big ones. So basically this will be full of spoilers and it will be a lot of rambling nonsense maybe, so bear with me. Alright, so I'm gonna go a little bit chronological with the game and go along, go through stuff. So the game begins with Kiryu basically, and Kiryu's part I don't have a lot of problems with. I liked that it was very downbeat, and you can sense his unhappiness that he had to leave the orphanage behind. We'll get into, there's more detail about that. But it's, yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. But there are two characters here that they're just there. They disappear completely from the rest of the game. First is Morinaga, which is the guy who, he's with the Tojo clan there to look for Daigo and stuff. But he turns out to be a bad guy, and then he disappears. And then it's said that he's dead, but we don't ever get to know how, when, or why. So he completely disappears, and but at least he has an excuse. Mayumi, the girl who's with him, who is revealed to be basically there to watch him, she also completely disappears. She doesn't return at all, which is also a shame because she could have been a semi-love interest for Kiryu, maybe. Although I always maintain that he's, after both Yumi and Sayama, he can't love again. He can nail hostesses, but he can't love. Aijima's chapter is a little bit where the problems start to erupt a bit more. First of all, I'm not a huge fan of Saijima's character in this game. In Yakuza 4, I liked him because he was this guy who he killed 18 people and got out and wanted to know the truth of what happened, and from a guy who's been in jail for 25 years, I can understand that he's a bit philosophical about his whole life, but in 5 it's a bit much, honestly, because like everything he says, he starts having this kind of street smart wisdom thing. So like, I wasn't too crazy about his homemade philosophies in 5. Baba, he's the most confusing character ever. I guess the point is that he is confused, but still he goes like back and forth all the time. So when they're in prison, he's apparently framed for stabbing a guy. I don't remember if he died or not, but he wasn't framed. It was all part of the plan, and I'm still too confused to actually explain that plan, because apparently Kugihara, the guy who looks like the Japanese Schillinger from Oz, he's in there to make sure that Seijima doesn't escape. On the other hand, Baba's there to delay his escape release, he says at one point. At one point he says he was just there to stop him from escaping. And then Kugihara was there to stop him, and then they wanted him to get out at just the right time, and blah blah blah. It's all very confusing. And when Baba is, because he shoots Kitakata in Sapporo, and then he chases him down, and then he's like, when he finds out that it's him, first he's like, oh, you're so naive, Saijima, you did exactly what we expected you to. And then when he takes out the gun to shoot him, he's just like, I can't do it. Okay, I get that he was doing just a job as a killer, and then Seijima is nice to him basically, and he starts to like him, and yeah, that's it, I guess. But I don't know, it's so confusing. And why does Baba get the best boss music in the whole game? In Haruka's part, of course, the main thing there is Park. I hate Park. She's made out to be this substitute mother for Haruka and blah blah blah. But Haruka doesn't realize that she's fucking blackmailing her in the beginning. Uh, she basically manipulated Kiryu to for him to just go away, abandon his dream of life, and to get Haruka to make her some sweet money, and then she blackmails her, saying basically, well, if you don't become the best idol in Japan, I'll just stop funding the orphanage, and you will have nowhere to go, and all the the friends you have there, they'll also have nowhere to go. So, you see now that you have to work hard at this. And she's like, yes, I will do the best that I can. I just like, at that point you sort of want to reach into the game and just kind of shake her like, she's blackmailing you, don't let her get away with this. But she does. Also in Haruka's part, because that's basically what you can call it, there's not enough Akiyama. That's really just a short thing. Shinada, he didn't feel too necessary as a character, because the whole point fraud is like a points betting scheme for the Yakuza basically. But first it's set up that Nagoya is not run by the Omi Alliance or the Tojo clan, it's run by the Nagoya family, which is made up of citizens, which I found really funny. I liked that, and it reminded me of Hot Fuzz actually, when they have this council of the people in the town who make everything happen. But then, of course, what's behind the Nagoya family, unfortunately, is the Omi Alliance. It's just not the official Omi Alliance. It's just Kurosawa, the leader, who set the thing up. He made this deal or whatever, so that he chased out both his own family and the Tojo, so he could use it as I guess his own personal cash flow or something. But that was a little unfortunate to me that they skipped the whole Nagoya family thing and just made it be Omi behind it. And even though like fixing baseball games, that kind of thing, it seems like a natural thing for Yakuza to do in real life, it still feels a bit like Shinada doesn't really have that much to do with stuff. They had to throw in basically that Daigo and Shinada were in the same high school, and that's the connection that Shinada has to the story at large, and that's a little weak. Alright, so on to stuff regarding the endings of the game, which honestly I would say is my biggest problems with the game. Even though they're not huge problems, I have to admit, it's just that a lot of small niggles add up. So Akiyama's ending is both really cool and really corny at the same time, and I'm honestly slightly confused on what to think about it. But Akiyama, and at the end, Akiyama fights off Kanai, the big lumbering asshole, and then it looks like Kanai has reinforcements coming and Akiyama is really even tired by that point. But the reinforcements are not reinforcements, it's the whole of the Yamagasa family, maybe? I forget what the name was. Basically the Fukuoka gang, the red ones, they come back. And then on the other side, the Kitakata gang family from Sapporo comes. And then behind him is Watase, the guy from the Omi Alliance, and all of his men. So Kanai is like surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of Yakuza from all across the country. And of course, the old man, Madarame, is now standing, even though he was in a hospital bed last we saw him, but now he's leaning against someone, so I guess that's okay. Kitakata, the guy, he was shot, and he's fine now. Watase was also shot in like 2 places, but he's fine. But that's like a typical thing with these games. Gunshot wounds are not gunshot wounds. Like they're sort of just like kind of like you take a needle and like, ow, that hurt. But then within a couple hours, it's completely healed. So I've come to expect that. So basically, then Kanai is totally surrounded. He bows and like he gives up, and then the weird part comes where Watase bows to Akiyama and makes everyone bow to Akiyama. It's like the end of Lord of the Rings. And that's cool, but why did Akiyama deserve that exactly? He fought a guy. And his lackeys, yeah. Kiryu's done that hundreds of times. Akiyama did it in Yakuza 4. He didn't get an ovation like that time. I'm not sure what to think of it, honestly. Shinada's ending, however, is that I know I don't like. So Shinada goes to the arena where Baba is sent to kill Haruka by sniping her. But meanwhile, Baba chose not to do it, which I like, because he's been going back and forth. He's working for the enemies while still helping the good guys, and he's confused and whatever, but he made his choice now. He does not want to kill Haruka. But Shinada comes in there, and even though he's on his way out, he's still just basically, we have to fight. Why? Baba's like, why? Well, because the end game demands it, sort of. So they fight, and then Baba gets an attack of depression for whatever reason. I don't remember exactly. So he goes to shoot himself with the rifle, which is in itself sort of impressive. But just as he's about to pull the trigger, Shinada runs at him, but he sits there and just like the gun's gone from his hands, and pan away, and there is the deputy warden, the police guy, and the legendary purse snatcher or whatever he was. His three friends basically from the prison are there, and they shot the cop guy shot the gun out of his hands at the last frame of a last fraction of a second. That's really fucking convenient, isn't it? And how did they know he was there? Why did they not? Why? I don't know. So Baba, he's really like, because they tell him, oh, you shouldn't kill yourself. Like, you have friends here. We're gonna take care of you. Come back to the prison and we'll serve our time out together or something. So he starts crying, and it's all like, all right then. And then we move over to Shinada, who sits tired after the fight, and he's like, oh, yes, at least he has friends. Who do I have to come back to? No one. And then he's called on the telephone, and it's the loan shark from Nagoya, who's like, oh, where are you, Shinada? How is everything going? We miss you back here. And Milky-chan, the hostess who betrayed him, oh, she's going to give you a great massage when you come back, and blah, blah, blah. And he just like drops the phone and starts crying because I had friends all along. Just, in one way, it's nice, but mostly it's really, really corny. That was like the tip for me when it tipped over. Like, guess what, Shinada? You had friends all along. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon for 3-year-olds all of a sudden. Majima is a wasted character in this game, unfortunately. They have him die, which I knew from the first second that no, he's not dead. So he's gone for most of the game. Then he shows up at the end for a boss fight, which is very standard. The only thing I like is when they unlock the chains on him and just let him sort of fall to the floor, and he stands up. It's kind of like they're really unleashing the beast. That's kind of cool. But then it's all the weird. The story that they try to put in is annoying, because when Seijima's chapter began, Majima was eating with him and stuff, and then he talks about basically, I'm getting old and stuff. He misses the baseball when he's at the batting cage. He calls in like 20 of his guys and Seijima's like, what? I thought we were gonna fight. Like, no, I'm getting too old. I'm no match for you now. I know that. So basically, he fights all the guys, and it's kind of a interesting moment, honestly, where Majima starts to feel old. He's getting too old for this shit. But when you come back, Majima flips the script completely, saying that Sejima went soft. That's why I didn't fight you, because I know you were not strong enough to put up a fight against me. So yeah, like, I didn't want to fight you before because you were too weak. You had been in prison. You gone soft, even though Sejima beat you in Yakuza 4 when he was just out of prison. Like, what? What, Majima? That's really strange. I do not buy Aizawa as the final boss of the game. That's a big one, because he comes out of nowhere. He is first a good guy. He seems really devoted to his Aniki Morinaga, who disappears. Then we see him again with Saejima, way late. He's fighting in the underground coliseum with the florist, who trying to get information on where Morinaga went, basically. He gets beaten to a bloody pulp, and then he comes out of nowhere, comes back and beats the other guy, seemingly to death. He finds out where Morinaga is, which is the morgue, and he's like, and then, but then when he's revealed to be the final boss, it starts sounding like he had Morinaga killed, maybe, but he doesn't say whether he did or not. He just kind of speaks very vaguely, so still have no idea what happened there. Aizawa is the son of Kurosawa, which is the villain of the game, and he is a decent villain. I like him. I like that the guy who thought was a slightly suspicious police officer through the whole game turned out to be the seventh chairman of the Omi Alliance, who was supposed to be deathly ill. And it's really funny when you know that he's supposed to be has stage 4 lung cancer or whatever. When you first see him, even though you don't see his face or whatever, in the intro, you see that someone's sitting on a bench smoking, and there's like 20 cigarette butts on the ground or something. And that's really funny in retrospect, because obviously he has cancer at this point. He doesn't care. He just smokes all the time because he's gonna die anyway. So I like that. But I basically, he did everything to destroy the Tojo clan and destroy the factions of the Omi Alliance, so that his son could take over everything, to leave his legacy or something. But basically, Aizawa is really only there because they needed to have a boss fight for Kiryu, and Kurosawa couldn't be a boss fight, so they had to invent someone for him to fight. But I just thought that was really weak. He didn't come out, and it came out of nowhere. There was no hints before. That's not a good twist. A good twist is something you look back and like, oh, I get it. So that was what that meant back then and back then. But Aizawa is completely out of left field. In general, they do this thing where there's this big mastermind behind everything that's happening. Who is it? And then someone gets shot. And they do that several times, actually. Okay, so most people's big problem about Yakuza 4 is they put all of Akiyama's money on the Millennium Tower to lure out the villains, and all the villains at the same time, of course, come there, and they start almost fighting one themselves before the heroes come and fight them, one individually. Everyone thinks that's really stupid, which I don't, well, sort of. The one part I think is stupid is that they put all the money there, and then the heroes come in a helicopter, and all the money blows away. Why? Why didn't they at least tie them together better, or put them in plastic or something? Just waste all that money for nothing. But the actual thing of luring the villains out with all the money, I think it's okay, and them fighting individually is totally fine by me. But in 5, what happens in 5 is even more. If you think that's stupid, then you should think this is worse, because it's the two guys from the Omi Alliance, Katsuya and Watase, and it's Katsuya's plan, by the way, meet on top of some tower. I don't know if it's the Millennium Tower. I think it's Kamurocho Hills. I forget which. And Kiryu and Saejima. So it's two Omi, two Tojo, basically. And they say that Katsuya basically has an idea of who the big villain is, and to lure him out, which is kind of the same idea as in 4, they should kill each other. Basically. He suggests that they all fight each other to the death, and whoever's left standing gets to see who's behind it all. Yeah. You see any flaws in that plan? First of all, 3 people die for no good reason. The person who in that plan is alive is beaten to hell, and he would be alive to see the villain for a few seconds before he's shot in the head or something. So I mean, it's cool just for the fighting purposes, because having a shirtless fist fight on top of a building is cool in any in any Yakuza game. But this plan is dumb. I think this plan is dumb, and they do it. Go forward with it, of course. They have like Katsuya, Saejima, Watase, Kiryu, or whichever constellation, and then Saejima versus Kiryu. After you've done all the fights, all of them are just kind of like, I'm so tired. None of them are dead, which is, I mean, fine by me. But then, so Kurosawa shows up, then is where we know that Kurosawa is the villain, which is a nice reveal. And then he shoots everyone in like the shoulder and the hips or whatever. He doesn't shoot anyone to kill them, but... And then he holds his little speech, whatever. Then Daigo comes out and shoots the gun out of his hand. He's about to basically execute him, which Kiryu doesn't want him to do, because he doesn't want him to do something Yakuza-like, I guess. But so Daigo takes way too much time doing it, so Kanai comes out of nowhere and shoots Daigo in the back. And Daigo and Katsuya, who's also shot a couple times, they were in like intensive care, but they still also managed to make appearances in the endings. But yeah, basically the whole plan of like, let's kill each other, and the last one who barely survives gets to see who the villain is. Like, huh? So people complain about the end of Yakuza 4, but they give this a pass. Why? Anyway, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of small complaints. But it all adds up. Because there's like, you play the game and I just get a little annoyed a lot of the time. And the whole thing adds up to a disappointing result. There's frankly a bit too many characters. There's too many twists. There are too many. Who's behind it? We don't get to know. You get strung along a bit too much. But there are good stuff too. I like Kurosawa as the villain reveal. I like that sort of like all roads lead to Kamurocho. They all get sent there where everything converges at the end, which is I think appropriate. In basic terms, the story is like a war of manipulations between Daigo and Kurosawa, who are both working behind the scenes, which is kind of, I think that's in retrospect kind of nice, because it puts Daigo on he's growing into the leadership role, and now he's trying out his manipulation skills. So yeah, the story in Yakuza 5 is decent, but there's a lot of small annoyances.